for sure.
Okay, let's turn to a concern that any government has, and particularly in pandemic times, is perhaps top of the mind: job creation. And I talk of quality job, not just jobs, but how are you going to create jobs that are productive is a huge challenge. Large numbers of jobs lost in pandemic. Various figures are thrown, but Professor Arun Kumar, I know this has been one of your concerns. How do you address the concern?
So, what I have been arguing is that the loss of work is more than the loss of employment, because many people were still on the rolls, but they were not working. So therefore, the impact on the GDP was much greater. Now, to create quality jobs, you require investment. And that requires demand, which goes back to what we were discussing earlier. Mm-hmm. And this Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme and the earlier point that you raised about how to raise investment, both of them are relevant to the point that you're raising now. Unless public investment is raised, there'll be no crowding in of private investment either, because demand is weak. So at this point of time, public investment has to be raised. And where would you raise public investment? As I said earlier, in education and health, because they'll employ a lot of people, and in all kind of minor schemes. You see, major schemes that we have, like the freight corridor and the highways, etc., they are highly mechanized. They don't directly generate that much job. Indirectly, whatever they generate, the other schemes will also generate. So in effect, what you need to do is start a lot of small, local projects, etc. And that's where the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme and the Urban Guarantee Scheme also will tie in. Right. And the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, which is, as Nilesh and others, Ajit have said, that will kickstart only some specific industries, but that will not necessarily mean across the board increase in employment generation. Okay. So what we require today is across the board quality job generation, and that has to come in a very decentralized manner, where the state governments will also play a very important role. So I think the state finances also have to be looked at, how the center would transfer funds to the states, where the states can then begin to generate, quality jobs as well. So it's a pretty complicated thing and completely interlinked with what you were discussing earlier.
Let me therefore give you a final word, Siddharth Zarabi. As someone who tracks the economy closely for years, where do you believe this budget will be judged on the basis of what? What is that key area that will determine in pandemic times, in an election season, that this budget has addressed the core concerns of our times?
I'm going to repeat what I said once earlier. This government, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, does not believe in instant coffee kind of budgets. Every single budget so far in the first term and the second term has been a long-term one, and there have been big ticket announcements outside of the budget. I think this...
There's also been a lot of tinkering during budgets as well.
Yeah. So I think this budget, purely from my own standpoint, if it gives us clarity of what the next 24 months will be as far as the government's spending priorities, its taxation priorities are concerned, that will give a lot of sense of what we can expect.
But also you've had successive quarters of slowing growth, barring the last few in 21-22. But if you go back to 2017, from 2017 onwards, from post-demonetization, we've struggled to get back to the kind of 7-8% growth that is necessary. What do you believe is necessary to do to get us back on that growth track?
So many things which were announced before the budget: the farm sector, the power distribution reforms, the labor codes, which have, while they have been passed, have not been notified because of the fear of political backlash. I think there's already so much in the pipeline. The national asset monetization pipeline, Rajdeep, which was announced with so much fanfare. Air India disinvestment is a seminal moment in the last 30 years as far as why should the government be running airlines? That money will be saved. So I think there is much more even beyond the budget. That's why I said the next 24 months are very crucial politically, Rajdeep. If we get a sense of the direction, I think the markets and stakeholders in the economy will breathe a sigh of relief, and no unpleasant surprises, let me also add as the last point.
That's right. Sometimes in budgets, it's those unpleasant surprises that are more troubling than anything else. You want a budget that sets, as Siddharth rightly put, some kind of direction for the next 24 months for the government and the economy. As always, it's been educative to have fine minds discussing the economy on the show without the noise and offering their wisdom. All your suggestions, hopefully, some of them will be finding their way into Nirmala Sitharaman's budget. But for now, Ajit Ranade, Professor Arun Kumar, Siddharth Zarabi and Nilesh Shah, I appreciate your joining us on this budget.